We are leaving Sydney at sunrise, 6:30 in the morning. Sydney has a population of over 5 million people, and we are going to Melbourne today, which has a population of over 4.5 million people. The two cities are 865 kilometres apart. We'll start the day off with visiting St Paul's Cathedral. This is an Anglican cathedral which has Gothic architecture. It was designed by a British architect named William Butterfield, and the foundation stone was laid in 1880, and the church was consecrated on the 22nd of January 1891. We are looking over at Flinders Street Station, and I'll just give you a panoramic view of the area around there. Flinders Street Station was opened in 1910 and demonstrates French Renaissance architecture. It's currently being restored, as you can see, and it's the busiest suburban railway station in the Southern Hemisphere. We're now on Prince's Bridge, and this is a Melbourne Explorer bus which takes tourists around all the main points of interest in Melbourne. So Prince's Bridge crosses the Yarra River, which is a large river flowing through Melbourne. It was opened in 1888 and designed by John Granger. It's situated at one of the oldest river crossings in the country and is on the Victorian Heritage Register. So now we're going to walk over the bridge. We are on the south bank now of the Yarra River. This is Alexandra Gardens. It's next to King's Domain, the Domain Parklands and the Royal Botanic Gardens. It was created at the beginning of the 20th century and is a beautiful place to sit on a sunny day. We're now going to go to the Victoria Gardens. These two marble busts are replicas of Pharnax Hercules and Belvedere Apollo. The gardens also have beautiful floral displays, and these gardens are called the Victoria Gardens, and they're Melbourne's memorial to Queen Victoria. And so we are now crossing the road to go to the National Gallery of Victoria. It's the oldest gallery in Australia, and it is split over two buildings. This building here is the National Gallery of Victoria International, and the other building, which we'll talk about later, is the Ian Potter Centre, and it's dedicated exclusively to Australian art. A particularly beautiful thing within this gallery is this window. This is the world's largest stained glass ceiling by an Australian symbolist painter called Leonard French. It took him 5 years to create it, and it consists of French and Belgium glass. During the Van Gogh exhibition, I was struck by his reflections, and yet it was only while painting that I noticed how much light there still was in that darkness. It requires a certain dose of inspiration, a ray from on high, which doesn't belong to us, to do beautiful things. So we're leaving the Van Gogh exhibition now and heading to the Forum Theatre. This was built in 1929 by an American architect called John Eberson. He was Ukrainian and he had studied design in Vienna. We're now looking at Federation Square, and this takes us into the Ian Potter Gallery, which is the largest major gallery that displays exclusively Australian art and is a wonderful place to visit. So we'll leave the gallery and head back to the south bank of the Yarra River. The Yarra River is 242 kilometres long and finishes in Hobson's Bay, Port Phillip, and flows through the centre of Melbourne, being its largest river. Before we leave Melbourne, I'll just tell you a little bit about Matthew Flinders. He was an English navigator and cartographer, and he led the first circumnavigation of Australia, labelling it a continent. He travelled to Australia 3 times between 1791 to 1810. So the light is fading and we're getting ready now to hop back on the plane to go back to Sydney as we say goodbye to Melbourne. I hope you've enjoyed this video and learnt a little bit more about one of our major cities in Australia. See you next time.